Okay, so I'm here under my RV and I have the, I think it's Facon tank heater pads. I'm getting ready to move to northern Arizona for work and it's still pretty cold out. Under here I got my gray tank, runs down that way. And here I have my black tank where I already installed one. One here is a 7 1/4 inch by a 25 inch. The one I'm gonna do here on my gray tank is a 18 by 12 inch. I'll peel this one off and show you how easy it goes on. Start peeling the paper back. You probably want to make sure you get them without air bubbles and whatnot in there and not twisted. So when you come up, it'll be pretty straight. I've just kind of been peeling it and rolling it back like that. Pull it all off. Then just massage it for a couple minutes. Make sure it stays there. I'd really hate to see one of these fall off while I'm driving down the road. And it's pretty simple, and then just run the wiring wherever your DC system is. I clean these off really well first. I wiped all any mud splatter with just the dry rag, and then I washed it with just water, warm water. And then, like the pads recommend, after the water dried, I washed them down with the alcohol. And they're pretty clean, but I mean, these tanks are a little old and scratched up and things, and I was curious how well they'd stick, but they seem like they're sticking really well. Now, before I'd go drilling holes in your RV, it's probably pretty important to know where all your plumbing is, follow electrical lines that you can see, make sure you're not going to hit anything. In my RV here, I have a lot of the sink and everything, the toilet, the shower, it's all back behind where my electrical comes from. So I'm pretty sure I'm not going to hit any water lines up here. When I look inside my panel and different things here, I can see exactly where a lot of the wires are running, like my main wire that goes to my hookup, like my generator, all that. I have a pretty good idea because I've just looked and I know where everything is. So I know when I drill my hole through the floor over here, I'm not going to hit anything. So my electrical system is under the kitchenette bench here, and like underneath where we checked, I was able to see where these went through for some outside wiring. So I know that from the bottom up it's probably pretty clear. Somewhere over here I can drill a hole for that heater pad wires to come up in. Because they're only 3 foot long on the pads, I went and bought some more 16 gauge wire at Home Depot, and I also bought this wire protector, and I have a drill bit here that will give me a hole right through the floor about the exact same size. But we can go ahead and drill our hole. Yeah, I have a 1/2 inch drill bit and the 3/8 cover should go through it, but we'll see. Okay, I can see light there. Okay, so I'm underneath the RV here, and I've decided that I'm going to run my electrical for these pads along that frame there, where a lot of the electrical already is. And then right up over there, you can see where some wires and that phone is already going in, and my hole is just to the right of it. You can maybe see just a little.
What I want to point out here is you want as few wires hanging down as little as possible. So my wires come off my black tank there, and I'm gonna run them up over the top of this drain pipe, and then I'm gonna run them up over top of the frame here to meet up with my 2 wires from the gray water tank, and then I'm gonna run them together down the frame into that hole. So I'm still under here, got my mask going on. A couple tips I wanted to share. When you put your butt splices in, like say the length off the pad, they're 3 feet long. So I would offset the butt splices, so when you pull them tight, they're a couple inches apart. It'll go in the flex tube easier and more evenly to where that flex tube will close up all the way. Next, up at the top where the flex tube ends, I like to tape around the wire itself to kind of protect it from the end, and then put some tape on the end to kind of seal up that flex tube, as well as keep it from vibrating through the wire or something as you drive down the road. Next is where I brought the 2 together. So 2 wires from one pad in here, 2 wires from the other pad in here, and now all 4 wires are gonna be in here. But I did the same, the 2 wires that have to squeeze in that crack right there, I taped up right where they go into the crack, and then I taped up good around the connection point. Okay, so here I have all my wire in the flex tube. Now that it's in here though, I'll be able to feed it up through the frame easier. I've had my wire, I ran it all the way across the frame. I'm gonna have to go back and put some zip ties to hold them in place better. But here's the hole that I drilled through the floor, and I can just feed it up and through. So I'm inside the RV, shoved the wire up through. I have plenty of wire to make what I need it to. I'm gonna install this switch right here up next to a power outlet and a charging port I put in. This is a 3 switch plate from Ultra Heat. It has a fresh, a gray, and a black water tank. I'm not doing my fresh water because my tank's under the queen bed, and I'm hoping that the heat from the heater just inside will keep that tank from freezing. Problem I have is I forgot to phase on my power cord which pad is on which side of my red wires. So, I mean, the white wire doesn't really matter because it's just going to go on the neutral, the DC neutral bus bar. But when I wire up the pads, I might have them backwards. I might have the gray tank wire to the black tank switch. So I'm gonna have to just turn one on at a time and see if I have them backwards. If I have them backwards, it's still not a big deal because I can just switch the terminals on the backs of the switches and it'll work out. But if you don't want to make that mistake, you should just phase the red wire, which I forgot to do. Now, Facon sent a book with, or an owner's manual with these pads for the 12 by 18 inch pad. It runs at 4.8 amps, so I can put a 5 amp fuse in there. For the 7 1/4 by 25 inch pad, it runs at 5.8 amps, so that's going to need a 10 amp fuse. And like I said, my problem is I don't know which wire is which, so I'll just run them both at 10 amp fuses. Once I figure out which one is which, and I can distinguish my black tank from my gray tank, I'll bump the gray tank pad back down to 5 amps and it'll be set. Okay, so I have it all wired in. When I turn on the 2 switches, they light up saying they're on. On the back here, just so you can see, right where we came out, I took the white wires straight to our neutral bus. On the back of the switches here, you can see those other white wires. The switches also have a ground in the wiring diagram, so those went there.
the two wires from the heat pads are the bottom two wires on there, and then the top two red wires are what come to the DC portion. Now I had to drill a little hole here. I had to make it bigger because I had a real small hole for my power port I added a while back. But here on the front side, taking my cover off, and you can see these bottom three red wires. That's my power port, the top one, and then these bottom two are the switches I just added. And then I put 10 amp fuses in, like I said, once I figure out which one's the black tank and which one's the gray tank. My gray tank is the one with the lower amperage running, so I'll change it out to a 5, and then I'll mark on my panel here what's what. Happy with the way it looks. Turned out good.